Hello, everyone. Hello from Panama, in Central America, Panama City, Panama. My name's Athena, and I'm super excited to welcome you to episode 3 of Unrestricted Live. So today we have an amazing guest, but before we bring Anna on, I just want to give a couple more people a chance to log on. If you're just logging on, you can sign in the top right corner. And either set up a YouTube account or just log in with your YouTube account so you can chat along with this live broadcast, because we can see you, and it's great to see where everybody's from and join in the conversation. So before I bring Anna on, I just want to explain a little bit about this idea of unrestricted and why I started this podcast series. So I think that the societal idea around success is broken. We feel overwhelmed. We feel like we're not good enough. We feel like we're not working hard enough. And we're constantly being shamed with, like, you need to be more successful and you need to be sleeping less and you need to be killing yourself and sacrificing your personal life. And as a result, we're now in a place where we're really deeply unhappy with this life that we've created. And there's this realization that maybe the idea of success isn't our own idea of success. So with Unrestricted, I wanted to paint a picture of people that have redefined what success means to them and are living an unrestricted life. And, I was there. I had a successful career. I was just working myself to death and making myself feel worse and worse as a result, until I finally had enough. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to leave the business I was a partner in. I'm going to sell everything that I own. And I'm going to literally go and join the circus and travel the world and redefine what it is that I want out of my life. And, on that journey, I started replacing toxic thinking and habits with good ones. I freed my mind and my body. I lost 44 pounds, 20 kilos. I've performed on aerial silks at the age of 36, which is just mental. And I've met really amazing people along the way that just absolutely inspire me. And I started talking to these people when this global situation happened, and I was so inspired by their outlook on life and the way that they use different hobbies, different passions, different movements to help themselves feel free. But the thing that's in common about all of them is they're rewriting this idea of success. They're not chasing, the typical kill yourself, make billions. They're rewriting success and they're living really happy lives. And it's not perfect. And that's the really important thing to nail down is life is not perfect. We all go through horrible times. We go through good times. And I felt really selfish to keep these people to myself and keep their stories to myself. So I started Unrestricted Live to introduce you to people that are really hugely inspiring and doing incredible things, but they're normal people just like us. And they are living unrestricted lives. So, through that journey, I have seen similarities in the fact that you can optimize the way you do your business to make sure that you're optimizing your life. So you'll hear me talk a little bit about productivity and organization and structure throughout this. And that's a commonality, is when we start being a little bit disciplined about making sure that we're taking care of ourselves and living an unrestricted life, we feel more free as a result, which I know is counterintuitive. So that's another reason why I want to bring these people to life. And they're all at different stages and all doing really amazing things. But the way that they're approaching the things that they're doing is pretty exciting. So I'm really excited to introduce you to Anna. And I'm really excited you're here because we're starting a conversation about what life could be like unrestricted and how we can redefine success. So I would love it if you could all say hi to Anna, just tap in the comments and let her know that you're here. And Anna Kiesser is an incredible human being. I'm going to let her tell you about all the exciting stuff that she's done on and off movie sets. And we're going to dig into what she thinks an unrestricted life is. So if you could join me in welcoming Anna Kiesser.
Hello. So nice to see you. It's nice to be
They're applauding out there. I can hear them. Anna, hello, welcome. Thank you. So I haven't seen you in so long.
Oh.
I think you're incredible, and I would love it if you could start off by just introducing yourself. Tell us where you physically are right now, and also give us a background and an idea of like this incredible career that you've had so far.
Yeah. So I'm tuning in from Germany right now. I'm in Nuremberg at my sister's place at the moment. About to move to Berlin to start a new project tomorrow. And yeah, about my career, it basically all started with Miss Doubtfire. So I was at art school, and I got I started sculpting again and like connecting with clay. And then somehow I don't really remember how I was watching Miss Doubtfire again, and it blew my mind that this is actually a job that you can change an actor into an old granny, and he's like this like heartbreaking journey about him and the connection with his children. And so this idea was implanted in my head that you can combine these two fields about sculpting and but also working with humans. So you're not like the lonely separated artist in your workshop, but you are taking care of people and working together in a big team. And then I applied at the Bavarian Theatre Academy in Munich to study makeup for stage and screen and wig making. And they accepted me, and then I started studying there for 4 years. And it was quite clear to me from the beginning that I want to specialize on prosthetics. And and I started working actually even before I started studying. And it was really an incredible experience because I was really diving in deeply, and I was super passionate about all these possibilities that I had there, that I could try out things and have my own projects as well next to studying there. There was a lot of possibilities in that sense, and I actually went quite crazy. I was quite a workaholic at that time. I had some nights where I was sleeping on the table at university, or I don't know, was working like 16-hour days just to fit everything in that I was passionate about and wanted to try. And then I started working as a freelance prosthetic makeup artist after studying. And I started off in Budapest at an amazing company called Film Effects. And it was really like a family business. They took me in and I learned so much there. And my first big movie was with this company, Inferno, with Tom Hanks. That's part of the that's part of the Da Vinci
Code series, right? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we made a lot of like deceased makeups and like creatures with like strange skin deformations and stuff like that. And then I started working in London as well for Mark Couillet and Couillet Creatures. Mark is a really inspiring, amazing person. He worked on Harry Potter, and he won 2 Oscars for The Iron Lady and for Grand Budapest Hotel. And I did a lot of projects with him. Maybe some of you know Suspiria. That was also a movie with Tilda Swinton. And then we worked on Stan and Ollie together. That was nominated for an Oscar as well, I think last year or the year before. Then on Wonder Woman 2, I was part of the team doing the makeup on Kristen Wiig for that one. And what else did we do together? Pinocchio. That was just recently. That was a huge project. Super interesting. We changed a little 8-year-old boy into a wooden puppet. And
I've seen some of the pictures of that. It's It's mental.
Yeah, it was quite tough also for the little boy because he was covered completely in prosthetics. He had gloves, his hands were covered, his hands, his legs. The only part of skin that you could actually see was around his eyes. And of course that was painted as well. And yeah, there was a lot of applications. I don't remember exactly the number, maybe 70 times. So we had to paint and prepare 70 sets of pieces we apply them new every day. And it had like this really fine wooden texture on it. And he changed, like he had 4 different stages of the wood aging.
Right.
So we had to pre-paint all of these. And yeah, it was an incredible team that worked on this. Working with Mark is like also kind of, it's quite often the same people and become familiar, and it's more like a family thing. And, most of the projects I work on, they're quite big and there's never just one person doing all of it. It's all like a big team effort, and we support each other. There's people specialized on sculpting, people specialized on mold making, on silicone running, painting and applying. Most of the time I'm painting and applying on these projects. Yeah, and then another big one that I guess everyone knows is Star Wars: Rise of the Skywalker.
Another big one that everyone knows, like drop Star Wars, like of course everybody knows that.
Oh yeah.
That's what I love about you. Like it took me I don't know, a month of living with you every day to start getting some of this stuff out of you. So obviously you had a really incredible and still do actually. When she says I'm starting a project tomorrow, she means another big movie thing that she can't tell us what it is because it's, NDA and all that privacy stuff. And I love Dylan just commented, I can't wait for Wonder Woman 2 and Pinocchio. So you have some people excited to see your work when those come out. So tell me about what you've been up to the past year or so, because it's very interesting. And this is kind of painting the picture of what your life has been off the movie sets.
Yeah. So last year, I spent quite a lot of time in the UK preparing for Pinocchio, and then also went on shooting in Italy, which was really beautiful. I think it was about 3 months, and we were traveling through different parts of South Italy, shooting in really remote places, and yeah, it was stunning, but also really hard work. And I was super exhausted after this project and really needed a break. And something I wanted to do for a really long time is traveling to South America. So I did that. I first went to Peru and then to Bolivia, to Brazil. And then I ended up in Guatemala, where we met as well. And this journey was really, it changed a lot of things for me. Opened my eyes to a lot of things that I didn't really see before. I went on some plant medicine journey there as well. And when I, in the end, ended up in Guatemala, I joined Momentum. So that's like a circus artist retreat or artist retreat. And I was just amazed about the people I met there. And when you arrive at a place where you really get the feeling of community and people who support each other, and you have this combination of a lot of movement. You wake up, you start with meditation, and you do yoga, and then there's maybe aerial silks class or acrobatics class and breath work and all sorts of fun things. I was also confronted with a lot of fears because I, was scared, I'm not good enough, or I'm not a circus artist, so what am I actually doing here? Can I do that? Can I just...
We couldn't have survived without you, girl. I don't know if you want me to tell everybody what you did for us, or you can, but and I think you might have also been able to perform yourself?
Yeah, it's crazy. Really, I arrived there. I haven't really performed on stage ever. And, I was quite comfortable in my role behind the scenes and preparing the actors and guiding them through the process and helping them to, stay relaxed and, or trying to take some weight off their shoulders during the day. And just being on stage myself, that's crazy how I ended up there. So we had this performance at the end of the year to start the new year at Momentum, and it was basically about the 4 elements and starting the new year. And I was joining this group to help with the costumes and the makeup. And then at some point they asked me, Anna, you could perform in that. You could be Pachamama. You could be representing the female energy and Mother Earth. And was like, whoa.
We didn't really give her a choice in this one. So for those of you that aren't familiar with it, I just actually posted a video myself, and there's a big festival out in the Guatemalan jungle called Cosmic Convergence, and Momentum Collective was doing a main stage performance at this event, and it was like an hour-long performance, and I think we had 20 different performers all collaborating together. And I was doing some aerials in it, and it was the first time I was ever performing like outside of Momentum's like happy, safe walls. And the 20 of us were all collaborating and trying to like bring together the different elements. And Anna was like, originally just like, okay, I'll help with like costumes and makeup and stuff. And we're like, we need someone to represent Mother Earth, like Pachamama, and then we're all like, Anna. And she's like, well, I'm sure somebody else can do it or something. Like, you were pretty resistant to it at first. They were like, oh my God, have you seen you? Have you listened to you? Like, you are Pachamama. It ended up being crazy because then Anna is like in between our whole, there's essentially like a retreat and like all day, every day, 5 days a week, like, schedule of stuff going on. But Anna needed to try to like fit us, do our costume fittings and like decide our makeup and do this whole thing like in between this whole schedule and the lead up to the festival. And then like coordinating on the day when everybody's like, yeah, I'm just going to go enjoy the festival. And Anna's like, no, like this is when you need to be here for makeup and you need to be here in costume for this point. And Like, it was incredible. And you even did like test makeup with us, which I was like, I'll do the test makeup. You embodied Pachamama, and you made us all come to life in this incredible hour-long performance. But my favorite part about that was seeing you come to life and seeing you. And I mean, she was just draped in ropes and she'd never done any fire or anything before. And here she was being so courageous about like, not only am I going to do fire, but I'm going to do a choreographed routine with another performer on the main stage, like holding fire and then guiding all of the women through this like prayer performance where you're like, you were moving and we were all following you for at least like 15 minutes. Like, it was crazy. So for your first performance, girl, like, wow.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really incredible.
I had to tell you all about that, and I can send you all the video afterwards so you can see. It was pretty amazing. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So what I think is super interesting about you is the projects that you're working on now. So tell us a bit about, obviously we know that you have your movie stuff and you're still doing that, and that's all incredible. But you actually have these other things that you do outside of that you're really passionate about.
Yeah. So why we're talking about Momentum or this period is because for me, it kicked off a lot of things that, or I started to make different connections. So, the work that I do as a prosthetic makeup artist is, like transforming people or creating illusions as well. Mm-hmm. And being part of these performances, and also, doing movement therapy every day, breath work every day, really connected with my body. And in combination with the performance and also, talking a lot with Atticus and Tali. Atticus was on last week. She's an amazing dancer. And we were talking about collaborating and using masks for performances. And so this, kind of started the idea that I can combine that in a different way as well, and I can use masks as a form of therapy or for performances that transport a deeper meaning. And so I started to develop different types of mask workshops, and basically the idea with working with masks is that it is something that is basically as old as humanity. Humans used masks for rituals, to ask for guidance, for healing. Quite often it was part of ceremonies that were connected with starting a new cycle or ending a cycle, like death, for example. And it was mostly part of gatherings that were about healing, because masks are a bridge from your inner world to your outer world. And you have on one hand, you have this feeling of safety because you are hidden behind something. And that helps to open up and to also be able to embody something that you maybe never thought you could embody. So like the simple example is like if you're a really shy person and you put on a mask that is like super expressive and like really outward going and strong, you are able to to embody this kind of character and take it out there. And through that, you can learn or manifest for yourself that you have these parts inside of you and that you're able to use them. And so it.
I just want to show you what Atticus said really quick. She still wants to make the masks dance. So Atticus, I guess, from last week was tuning in right now. So little challenge to you. How do we bring the masks and the dance together? We were talking yesterday, and I think this is maybe where you were going, where you discovered why masks could be healing and why they could be transformative. And it was actually through some of your work.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like different situations that kind of connect. One part is that we had classes at university where we were taught by an actor or person that was like specialized on hard masks how to work with these masks, because it's important for me to know how it feels like for an actor to wear what I'm creating, and also to understand how masks work, and that it can be really different for each person depending who is wearing the mask. The look of the mask can change, and it can affect the person when they are wearing it. Like you can get really deep into the character, and it can be hard to actually come back. And it's a deep work, and that was always one of my favorite classes. So that's one part. And then there's a lot of examples on movie sets as well, but one that really touched me was on Star Wars. We were shooting in Vadiram in the desert, and the whole project was supported by the king.
I think I just heard my mom yelp in the other room because you said Wadi Rum, but carry on.
It was supported by the Jordanian king, and so he basically offered his army to be part of some of the really big scenes. We had scenes of like 200 akiyakis, so this type of creature, and they had like this really big festival scene where they all came together and were dancing in like super beautiful, colorful costumes, and they had these like big trunks rolled in and beautiful eyes up there somewhere. So they were basically also all covered. They had everything covered, and
out in the middle of the
in the middle of the desert, and they had to find people who are like physically able to do that because it's quite hot, and who are maybe able, like who are used to wear a mask or something like that before. Yeah, so they got these guys in, and then when
the Jordanian king gave you the Jordanian army, right? As the actors. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was an amazing choreographer, a guy from the UK, and and he was like showing, like practicing the dance with them, and it's like this gay English choreographer in the middle of the desert trying to teach them how to move, and they had to like shake their hips as well and stuff. And it was so cute to watch. Like in the beginning, a lot of them were quite intimidated. And they were practicing scenes as well, where they were just talking in like a fantasy language, and like having like market scenes where they are dealing about stuff, and all in this like fantasy language. And like this is such a huge contrast to what these men are doing in their normal lives and normal jobs. So you all of a sudden are in this fantasy land in the middle of the desert, and you're dancing with a mask on, and then you're having these like scenes where you can be like really playful, and you have to freestyle and talk in a weird language and just play around with it. And you could see how they were like blooming up, and how they started to be much more courageous and letting loose, and like really enjoying it and having fun. And that was something so beautiful to watch, that there was situations like this, but at the same time it was
as a case study, you couldn't get more regimented, follow the rules than an army. And then to like be pushed out of their comfort zone, and it's like, right, so you're going to learn dance moves from a very flamboyant choreographer, and you're going to be touched by women and men all the time, and then you put on this mask, and it's like almost like by putting on that mask, it gave them permission to express something that they probably weren't able to do before, right? And like, what an amazing assignment, like to be in the military and be like, right, so you're gonna go dance in the desert with some masks on for a massive movie.
Yeah, definitely. It was so beautiful to see. Like, there was the English puppeteer actors who were playing the front characters and were wearing like the important masks, and they were teaching them as well, and it was so beautiful to see. At the same time, it was also it must have been quite tough for them as well, because we were like shooting really back to back. There wasn't much time in between. And another funny thing, we were running around with these leaf blowers and water, and
so we don't get pulled off YouTube, by the way. I meant to mention this yesterday, but you can still explain what it is. Just don't say the actual word. By YouTube. Carry on. Back to the story.
Yeah, so you're running around with these leaf blowers to blow air into the costume, and to give them water as well, to stay hydrated in the desert. And air is an Arabic slang word for the male genitals, that we didn't know. So, you can imagine like me running around with this leaf blower and a bottle of water, screaming, air, water, and then going over to these guys and like, I have to touch them and put in this air blower, give them air and stuff. And for some of them, they are not used to be touched by a woman just like that. And, so that's really, a lot of boundary crossing there. So it's quite interesting, these situations. And it also shows like how, working on these movie sets sounds so glamorous, but quite often it's just not. Like,
they're that's horrific to be out in the desert every single day, 16 hours a day. And like, these poor guys have these masks on as well. And you were telling me yesterday or the Friday that, you're having to like run out really quick, and you don't even have time to go anywhere else. You literally have to hide in the scene and then go back and spray them with air. I find masks so interesting, these conversations often make me like reflect a little bit more on these ideas that I'm going to talk to you guys about, and with Atticus last week, and movement and our channel being open by like making sure that we move our body, and something that, hasn't really hit home until now is like the impact of masks in my life, you know. And my mom's traveled all over the world and has always had these like really elaborate masks all over the house. And I was telling you guys earlier today, like some of these masks are these Balinese masks that are like super scary looking. And like when I was growing up and I'd have my friends over and they were like, 5-6 years old, and this is like terrifying pterodactyl Garuda Balinese sculpture, like between a bunch of mirrors. And they're like, oh my God. I'm like, no, it's for protection. It's all good, So but how do you, and this is just the world I was brought up in. Like masks can be a protective thing. So the scarier looking the Balinese mask, the better it is at warding off the evil spirits, and then also the conversation that started last week with Atticus and like we started talking about is this idea around perfection. And a lot of what you have to do on the movie sets is really like perfect, fine detail. And, and it's beautiful because you create these like fantasy worlds and these illusions that we get to be lost in the movies. But, just like Atticus was talking about last week with breaking perfection of being a trained dancer and getting her body to move in things that were outside of the way that she's trained herself, you've also had to apply that idea of like breaking perfection to your masks. So like tell us a bit about that, and then there's another project that I want to talk about that you're working on.
That's so true. So a lot of the work I'm doing is like really like hyper realistic. It's about each little birthmark, and it's super interesting. It sometimes feels a bit like playing God. You're really trying to recreate nature to perfection. And I love that part. It's super amazing. And at the same time, I also kind of needed to find a balance for myself when it's about creating my own art that is not connected with movies, because I ended up really judging myself all the time and being really hard on myself. And connecting with my body and like discovering all these different layers helped me to understand this kind of fear that I have, but also learn to trust that something that is inside of me that I can release through art, through sculpting, that I can express with my hands, that is just perfect as it is, and it just comes out as it is. And this is something I really want to share with people as well, that connecting with yourself and moving, if it's breath exercise or moving exercises, and connecting all of this with mask workshops is something really powerful, because you arrive at your center. And one practice that I try that I find really incredible is blindfolded sculpting. So you basically prepare like a base with clay on the table. And I also want to interweave all of this with breath work and maybe guided meditation and shaking, dancing, things like this. So you really arrive in your center, and then you start sculpting blindfolded, and everything that you want to release is basically going through your hands and connecting with the clay, and it just ends up like you can pour out what's inside of you and form that into a mask.
So just really quick, check your microphone, because I think it might be rubbing up against your clip a bit. But just to kind of reiterate that, like, to go from this world of really focusing on like making hyper realistic detail to breaking yourself of that, you've kind of like, I don't know if conditioning, you've trained yourself to be hyper realistic and like really look at that minute detail and judge yourself like how close and accurate you can make it, or make it look as if it's real, even though it's something that doesn't exist, which is incredible. So to take that practice and then like, okay, now I'm going to go the complete opposite, and I'm going to blindfold myself and make masks and just use my hands and use my intuition and see what comes out of that. And to be honest, clearly you're very, very talented, because I think if I were to done that, like it would just be like this naughty. She showed me some of the masks afterwards that she did when she had a blindfold on, and it's like this perfect, beautiful thing, but like very so I think if I were to do it, it'd probably just look like a naughty mound of clay. But I think it's so interesting that you're working on, with your background, but also this new world that you've opened up for yourself, like how do we break perfection, and how do we use our bodies and our intuition in our hands, and this idea around being able to use masks not only to protect ourselves, but to allow ourselves to enact a different person. So Anna's working on workshops to kind of bring that to life for people, and people like me that don't have a background in this kind of like movie making stuff. So it's super exciting. And like, if you guys haven't followed her on her Instagram channel yet, she does a lot of like live streams and stuff, and talks about her inspirations and what you can be doing at home and how you can start doing this stuff. Which is incredible. But there's another project that you're also really passionate about that you've been working on. So tell us a bit about the women's work that you've been doing.
Yeah, so I've experienced a lot of change in Guatemala, what I said before. And when I arrived at this place, I think I've never had that before, that I met so many women coming together, being in, bless you, coming together, being one place. And, there was no jealousy, no judgment. And we were like really supporting each other. And this was something that touched me so much. And I really felt that there's a lot of parts inside of me that really crave this kind of connection. And so we had men and women's circle there. So it's, it's not just for women, it's also really important for men, I think.
What men's and women's circle is, for those that might not have experienced one yet.
Yeah. So women's circles or men's circles is when you're coming together and you are creating a space that is non-judgmental, and so everyone is accepted. You come as you are, and you can share about like things that moved you, or it's about exchanging experiences and listening to each other. So deep listening, but also resting together, and sometimes there's meditation involved or music, and it's about a deeper exchange. And also like people from different ages and different life stages, so you learn from each other, you learn from the experiences each one goes through. And for women's circles, I also combine it with menstrual cycle, and these connections to, because I realized for myself how disconnected I was from my cycle, or how much I was fighting what's actually happening in my body every month, and trying to always be same energy every day, but actually for women, our brain connection and brain activity is changing by 25% each week. So you can't be the same person like for the whole month. We have two clocks. We have the 24-hour clock that men and women have, and we have another clock which is our cycle. And this is changing all the time. It makes you change all the time. And for me, it was always this kind of pressure of feeling that I have to deliver and be the same every day, and like really, kind of ignoring what's happening every month in my body. And then I started to realize how much energy I'm actually losing by doing that this way. And to understand that if I move with my cycle and connect more with my body and try to understand how it's all connected, and which time of my cycle I feel more creative or have more energy, which times I'm more going inward or I need more rest to be able to charge my batteries again. And so, it's like the whole thing of you are going through building up, and your body's ready to create life, and then going through this phase of like cleaning up and letting go again before you start like seasons, you know. And I think it's also really important for men to understand that, and for women to stop feeling ashamed about what's going on in our cycle, and to start talking about these taboo themes and to support each other with that. There's a lot of women who experience pain, for example, and it doesn't have to be like this. And, you know, a lot of things that are kind of ignored, or you're just told by a doctor, oh, that's all fine, this is normal, and you just think you have to deal with it all by yourself. And yeah, for me, it's been really healing to see that there's, you know, you can create these circles where you come together and you feel safe and respected. And there's other women who are just listening to what you have to say, or how you experience your situation at the moment, physically, emotionally. And this is something really healing. Like, you know, there's not even someone commenting on it, but you're just heard.
Yeah, I want to share my experience with this, because I think people can hear like women's circles and menstrual cycles, and they're like, oh my God, that's, whoa, like the hippie stuff that I'm not into. And I was one of those people, you know, like up until, so I went to Momentum, their residency in Indonesia last September. And I was terrified of going, because I was like, there's going to be all these like spiritual hippie people. And growing up, I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, which was like the, you know, epicenter of hippiness. And I was so anti all of it. I was like this rock and roll raver, and I was like, get it away from me. So I was really resistant to anything like that for a really long time. And going to Momentum was like kind of getting over my fear of being around people like that and being exposed to these different ways of thinking. And, you know, one of the first days I was there, they hosted a women's circle, which, you know, like you said, it's a safe space and that sort of thing, but it's essentially like a bunch of women sitting around in a circle, and we light candles, and we dress very feminine or however we want to dress, right? And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I was just like, I don't know about this, because my whole life I'm not like other women. Like, yes, I have a bunch of female friends, but I've always been in really male dominated roles. And, you know, I think I have a very masculine energy when it comes to work and So I had this disconnect, I think, almost from like other women. And so I was like going into this women's circle, like, I don't know if this is going to be for me at all. Like, okay, I'm, you know, we're on this remote island, so it's going to be really obvious if I'm the only one to turn up. So I went along to it, and there was like 20 women in this circle, and I looked at them and I was like, every single woman sitting around here is so completely different from me. And I've always felt like that. And then I think the question was opened up, like, talk about your experience as a woman. And every single woman shared something that I identified with. And it blew my mind, you know, and it, like you said, the healing, transformative nature of that, like, wow, you know, my whole life I have gone around thinking that I have this disconnect from other women. Actually, I share something in common with every single one of them. And at the same time, there was also a men's circle going on. So, you know, I think it's important to realize, like, you know, yes, we can talk about women's stuff, but like men have their own conditioning and things that are like put upon them. Like, you can't show fear or you can't show weakness, and you need to show up in this world as like a masculine person with no emotions. So it can be just as healing for men to go into those environments and actually talk about their shared experience that only they understand, of what it's like to be a man in a world that expects you not to have emotions and not to show fear and to be a provider, and all the mixed messages that they get is, you know, we get tons of mixed messages as well. So, you know, that was a really like pivotal moment for me. Like, okay, maybe this women's circle stuff isn't so hippy dippy. Like, actually, like, I really got a lot out of that. And that was a moment that I started leaning into my relationships with women, and like how strong and bonding those can be in the shared experience of being a woman. But on a women's circle a couple weeks ago on the full moon, and it was over Zoom, so it was like, okay, I'm going all in. I'm gonna do this women's circle thing again. And we're all on Zoom, and we're going around and talking about our experience of like having our cycle. And I lose it. Like, I literally lose it. And this girl watching me, and I'm just like, tears are streaming down my face. And I'm like, oh my God, I never realized like how much was like wrapped up in this thing that we feel like we need to hide. And especially as women, like, you work on movie sets, which are pretty male dominated. Like, I worked as a roadie and like worked in events and that sort of thing. And it's like, you can show no fear. You can show no weakness. Like, who cares if you have your cycle or you have crippling, cramps or whatever. It's like, you already are lucky enough as a woman to be in that situation. So don't you dare show weakness. So it's like this thing that we've like had to restrict ourselves from. So I guess, to the men out there, it's like, it's not about shaming you about this, but maybe like giving you some insight into the, like you said, like our brain changes by 25% every week. And, it's just, we are fundamentally wired differently. And one sex is able to give life, and the amount of things that our body must go through in order to make that process happen.
Yeah.
Like, of course it's going to be crazy. Like, we grow life inside of our stomachs. This is crazy. Like, what must the body do in order to make that happen? So anyways, I'm tangenting quite a bit, but so essentially you got inspired by this, and now you're leading women's circles, and you're like really leaning into this side of things.
Yes, I'm just fitting that in with also if I'm now working on a new movie, but there will be some weekends or evenings where I'm going to fit that in. At the moment, it's going to be virtual, and if we are able to meet again in groups, then I'm going to have some circles wherever I'm working then. So for the next time, that's going to be Budapest. I'm going to be there for another project, and I'm going to be offering women's circles there. And it's something really beautiful. At the beginning I was like, it's always that kind of excuse where you're like, oh, I'm not ready yet for that, or I'm not experienced enough, or whatever. But this is such a like just an excuse to move on and share what you can share with other people. And I've been it really blew my mind to see the reactions of women who were joining the circle, and to see how much they connected with it, and also for me how beautiful these kind of connections can be. And even if it's through Zoom and you feel like it's less physical and you're more far away, it was really beautiful to see how it still works in this virtual space. And
clearly, I loved it. I had a bit of an existential menstrual crisis. Really beautiful and healing, and like as a result of that experience, all of my girlfriends that weren't in that circle that I talked to outside of it, like I started talking about my experience there, and we started sharing, our experiences, like just as women. And so it allowed me to have this conversation with other women in my life that it's like, why we don't talk about this? Like, why don't we talk about it? Also like it brought me and my mom a lot closer, because we were able to kind of like have a refresh on something that was like really traumatic for me, because she, I was in a different place than her when I came into womanhood, and she was really upset that she wasn't there. I was really upset that I wasn't with her, and like we were able to just like refresh, and it sounds really hippie and like really like okay whatever, but like it's amazing how facilitating those conversations and being in a safe space with other people that have had that same experience can be really transformative.
And it's it's also about like breaking these breaking the hierarchy. In these circles, there's no one preaching or like teaching in a way. We are all equal. Each woman has her story to tell, or each man has his story to tell, and is there to to be heard. And it's not about like filtering everything everyone says through your belief system, but to be there to just accept whatever comes up. And there's a really beautiful book I wanted to mention. It's called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. And she brought this super beautiful example about when we were born, society and our parents and people in our surrounding, they are planting plants in our garden. And they do that without asking us. And these plants are growing, and maybe some grow really fast and they take away the light of the ones that grow less fast. And then at some point you are standing in your garden, you're looking around, you're like, whoa, actually, I don't want this to grow here. And just reflecting, like, what is actually growing in your garden, and what do you want to keep nourishing, what do you feel like taking out. And this is something that every one of us has, and we all have a certain way of conditioning. And being in these kind of circles made me realize that a lot, like, okay, what's actually growing in my garden? Let's see. And and also another thing she said, which I find really beautiful, is that men and women, we are made from the same parts. They are just arranged differently. And so we are connected in everything.
I mean, it all starts out completely the same. And hearing the experiences of the men that, because now I've been able to experience a couple of women's circles by being in the residencies and stuff, and the men that come out of that have never been in one of those experiences before are just as blown away. So, if you can create or find an opportunity to be with people of the same sex and talk about, what your experience is with that. I don't know whether it's correct to say sex or gender these days. So please know it's in the best intentions. There's, all accepting of everyone. But I'm just, before we get too far down that rabbit hole, I think it's super, it was great watching your stories and kind of following you after circus residency life. You ended up going to stay at your mom's for a bit, and that was deep in the forest and some of the stuff you were doing there. So I'm just curious, what kind of movement practice do you have in your life? So do you incorporate movement, and what does that look like, and how important is that into maintaining you?
So because my life is quite, always changing. I move a lot to different places. So for me, I'm really struggling to keep a routine. But then at the same time, if I'm able to, then it gives me a lot of strength and stability as well. So what I love to do is just moving freely, like dancing. When I lived in London, I went to ecstatic dances every week, which was really freeing and my weekend medicine. I do a lot of yoga or aerial silks if I can. That's still one of my favorites. And for that, it really depends. For me, it's really hard to keep this everyday kind of movement exercise when I'm working on movie sets, because we have long hours and sometimes get quite late. And this is something I really want to incorporate in my life more, to find more balance with this. So even if it's just a short amount of time when I wake up in the morning and stretching, doing a few sun salutations, or a lot of times just shaking and moving.
Atticus and I started talking about that last week, but just something like shaking, I've started when I was in an all-day event last weekend, and then I jumped out to do the podcast, and then I went back into that, and it was super intense. Even doing a handstand for a minute and getting upside down, or just moving your body in a way that is not familiar. It's not sat at a computer, you're probably on your feet all the time, but are you moving side to side? Are you shaking? Are you screaming? Are you putting your hands over your head? Are you doing, so just being able to move your body differently. But I loved we'd get these little updates of you, and you're like, I did tree yoga today. I'm like, what is tree
Oh
yoga?
yeah.
Tell me
Yeah,
about tree yoga.
I was so lucky because my mom lives at this amazing place in the Alps in Germany, and there's super incredible nature around there. So I went out every day. I started running, and then I went to the lake, and it was still like freezing cold actually. And I got into some Wim Hof breath work and breath practice. I started to include that into my daily routine when I was at my mom's place. And so I just went into the lake, gave myself this like cold shock, just like swimming until I felt like my muscles are frozen, and then went out and ran back, and there was this amazing tree that fell down, but it was still kind of connected to the ground. So there were still branches, like leaves starting to grow out. And that became my favorite place. It really became my friend, this tree. And I started to do stretching and yoga there, and trying to to see what kind of acrobatic movements I can do there, and splits between the two different branches and stuff like that. And this is also where I found a lot of beautiful things. I found like really beautiful roots and like really amazing shapes, and it was so inspiring to see those, and that made me start sculpting again. And I got into I just got so inspired by nature and by all these colors and like seeds that I found, or shells, and drying flowers, like pressing flowers and leaves, and starting to use them for my masks, or for sculpting. It was so beautiful to start sculpting again, because I haven't been doing that for quite a while. And finding these roots really opened that up again. And I could process a lot of emotions through sculpting as well. And also just to allow myself to break free from that kind of perfectionism that, I don't have to be like a sculptor that has studied sculpting to be able to sculpt. I can just sit down and do it and enjoy that and see what's coming up. And I kind of put that pressure on myself because of working in the movie industry. And you're surrounded by sculptors that are just like incredible. It blows your mind. You see how they are working. And that kind of made me feel just a bit, scared in a way to actually start, even though it was something that made me start working in the industry. And so now the Corona time and nature made me connect with that again, and just go back to sculpting, and it feels really amazing.
So for those of you watching, drop any thoughts in the comments if you have tried sculpting, or you're interested in masks, or any of this stuff that Anna's talking about. Like, let's keep the conversation going. But I find okay, so just really quick, I think we throw terms out that maybe people haven't had experience with before. So breath work is something that we're actually going to be talking a lot about next week, because Hannah, who's going to be joining us, is actually training as a Wim Hof. She's doing the Wim Hof training right now. So for those of you that maybe haven't been exposed to this idea of breath work before, there's this new movement of people that are using our breath and different breathing techniques to essentially like heal trauma, to make us almost bulletproof. So people are using this use of breath to be able to like climb crazy cold mountains in the snow in just a pair of shorts, or to be resistant to the cold. And then they're using cold alongside that to, really like bring their experience to the next level. And there's even schools of thought that like you can use breathing to actually like stimulate DMT in your mind. I think I'm getting this right, but essentially able to like get to like hallucinatory lucid states just by breathing differently. So it's this whole new practice that's coming up in the world that's really exciting and really interesting. So how you breathe and your focus on breath and the different breathing techniques. So we were obviously exposed to this in Guatemala, we had a Wim Hof certified teacher there, Daniel, who was like leading workshops and stuff. And some of the things that people went through just by breathing differently is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing because it's a tool you have with yourself all the time.
Yeah, it's like, well, okay, if I go on a trip, I just need to like get myself into this breathing state. You know, like some of the experiences that people have had just by breathing differently, I'm just like, wow, you know, and of course I'm always last to the party. There has to be some like rational, you know, explanation for me to be able to be like, okay, or like I need to be pushed into it. So, you know, I'm the last one to the women's circles, and I'm the last one to start meditating, and you know, even stuff we were talking about, like with you know, female stuff, and you know, it's like I kind of need to get the Capricorn brain. I'm just like, I need a rational decision or some numbers or like some financial, you know, pushes as to why I should be doing this. So it's super funny. But the breath work is something that I'm kind of like, okay, I'm starting to get interested in incorporating that into my life. And I remember Daniel was like, we got into this like massive argument about the cold. I was like, I just don't like cold. Okay, like my body is not. And he's like, no, I didn't like cold either. You can get your body there. And I was like, I don't care. I don't like the cold. So, you know, often our resistance to things is pretty interesting. But I'm tangenting again. So you touched really quickly on your routine, and I know we've talked about this, you know, privately. But like, do you have a morning routine? What does it consist of, and why do you do it?
Yeah. So I part of my morning routine is like a womb heart greeting. So just like connecting your heart with your womb space. This is something that I included after I did some training with some amazing women, and it just feels really good to me. So this is one of the things I always do every morning. And yeah, sometimes I take time to write in my journal, or also in my cycle tracking journal, and reflect about the last day, or like going back to reminding myself what was the plan for the day, what I have coming up. And and like maybe some stretching exercise, moving, these kind of things. And sometimes I'm just so happy to catch the last second of sleep and and not to be late for work, and just quickly put some clothes on and run out. So
yeah. So this is going to be interesting for you, like having had the last couple months to really like solidify your personal practice, sculpture, and like going out into nature and movement. So, and now you're going back into like a hardcore movie routine, right? So it'll be interesting for you to see like how you bring those two worlds together, and how you can
definitely
a morning routine. And a lot of what I've seen people do is like have a mini routine, like, you know, it's those basic things that they just have to do every day, and it like sets their day and it sets the tone for it. So you know,
like
I'll be interested
teeth, like, you wouldn't leave that out. So there's things that you can incorporate, and that's it's just about like how you plan it and how you keep time for it. And this is really like the challenge for me, being, you know, experiencing all that, having been on that amazing journey, having had the whole day to move, to do yoga, to do sports and all of this, and having these plant medicine retreats. But the actual work starts after. It's about the integration and how you make things work in your real life, not real life, in a different reality. Because now I'm creating a different reality. So when I'm working on movie sets, and I'm getting tired, I have these long hours. That's now the challenge, to see how I can incorporate these things. And I know that if I give myself the nourishment of moving, and, you know, like helping my body to spread energy, and to also just stay awake, even if it's on set or after work, and taking the time to go inwards, and, you know, like maybe focus on things that are coming up, or resting. I forgot one. That's such an amazing thing. I love that so much. Did you ever hear about yoga nidra? Yoga nidra?
Oh yeah, I think it was either
And,
Hannah or Alethea. Is that the evening one where you do it at night, the yoga nidra?
well, no, you can do it at every time of the day, but yeah, some of it is for night times as well. So one woman that is doing really amazing yoga nidras, and some of them you can listen to for free, is called Yuma Dinsmore Tuli, and she has this website called Yoga Nidra Network.
Yuma, what was her name?
Yuma Dinsmore Tuli.
Dinsmore Tuli, and it was
Yeah.
Yoga Nidra Network.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she offers, she and her husband basically, they offer different types of yoga nidras depending on what you want to work on. If it's, if you want to, be energized, if you want to focus on a certain part of your body, if you want to calm down, fall asleep. And so basically, this is like a really compressed training where you kind of similar to combination of guided meditation and audition training, where you go through all the different parts of your body, and you kind of get into really relaxed, like nearly like trance state. And quite often it's super difficult for me to stay awake. Some of them like 20 minutes, half an hour or longer, and it's incredible. It's such a deep rest, and I realized that quite often you put this you have this idea that you have to produce something, you have to be active, or yeah, just create, or yeah, follow this, and then doing actually the opposite and just resting for 20 minutes. Give yourself this time, and it's just been amazing. It's so good, and it helped me a lot as well when I was super unmotivated, to actually,
Oh, I was just I'm just highlighting a comment here from Geomyra when we were talking about Wim Hof breathing, and yes,
Oh, yeah.
Geo, that was actually on the Goop episode. Wim Hof can be absolutely amazing for all sorts of things. It can definitely like help with meditation. It can help you through anxiety, and it's great that you're exploring it. And actually, our guest next week, Hannah, is going to be talking a lot about breath work. And Geo also said that she's loving the honesty, and she's tuning in from Germany as well. So she's not German, but she's married to a German. So
Hello.
So I am super interested. Like we've been talking a lot about organization and structure and using calendars and like those sorts of techniques that you are naturally a creative, so a lot of this stuff can I don't want to say a struggle for you, but I'm just generalizing around creatives. A lot of creatives are resistant to using calendars or having sort of organization structures and that sort of thing because they think it reduces their creativity. And this is an area you've been exploring since before we met and now since we met. So tell us a bit about how, you organize yourself, some of the systems you've been trying out, what your experience with that has been.
Yeah. So if it's about the movie work and being structured with this, it's something really different than if it's about my own artwork or my private life. For the movie work, I learned this throughout the years. I'm quite structured with this, and I know how to plan things and how to organize things. And if it's about my private life and my own creative work, then I'm, changing my mind quite often. So I make a plan and I wake up the next day, I'm like, oh, actually, I feel like I do this today, or, and then I'm changing it again. And I'm also getting used to using my computer for planning things nowadays, because I'm moving so much, and I love to write on paper, and I still do that, but it is quite difficult to carry around the notebook and this book and that book, and it's just too much weight and space. So I started to use the Google Calendar to organize things. That is quite helpful, and I got this from you. Like before I was like, oh, how does it actually work? Because I really not so much connected with any technical things. Yeah, and that helped me a lot. And also the advice that I also got from you to keep track of how much time it takes me to do certain things. Yeah, so I can make a realistic plan and not be disappointed if I'm not managing to do all this stuff that is on my huge to-do list for every day.
Yeah.
That's been super, super helpful. Yeah, and
So it's so interesting, you know, like when I start explaining my philosophy behind time management and productivity to people, because obviously there's, you know, normally there's a huge resistance to it, and I don't blame them, because the stuff that's out there is like super corporate, it's super stuffy, it's like taught to us by people that wear suits and ties every day, and they probably don't have any movement practice, or they're happy to just keep climbing this corporate ladder or whatever. It's like, I don't identify with that. Like, how does that work? And I was like you, like in my work life, like, oh my God, I was super regimented, super organized. And, you know, it was only the last couple of years that I realized, like, holy crap, you can apply those principles to your personal life, and actually it makes you feel more free. So, you know, one of the things that I was talking to somebody about the other day, he was like, oh yeah, you know, I've started using a calendar as well, but I feel like it restricts me if I use a calendar. And what I think is so beautiful about a calendar is, like, when you start with all the personal things that you want to get done, and you put all of those things in your calendar before you put a single work thing in, then it makes you rethink, like, how much time you actually have to do the work stuff, right? And then you're like, okay, well, I want to do all this personal stuff, so how can I get more done in the time that I have left to do the work stuff? And somebody said, you know, a task takes as long as we give it. So if we give ourselves, you know, a really long amount of time, we'll expand that task to take that amount of time, as opposed to like, okay, well, I have 45 minutes here. I know I need to get this thing done so I can go off and run around in the forest, or so I can do my yoga, or so I can do my ecstatic dance, or whatever it is that your personal thing is. So when we flip the idea of the calendar on its head, and it's like, how do I use this as a tool to allow me to do all the things I want to do, and be more realistic about what it is that I can actually get done? So when we estimate, like, how long it is going to take us to do something, and we're looking in real time of, like, okay, I have this, this, and this that I want to do. I have this, this, and this that I need to do. So if I'm plotting my to-do list in my calendar, then I don't feel really bad, you know, as opposed to like writing a to-do list and not actually being realistic about like how much time that you have. So like writing this like super long list of all these things that you want to get done, and then you feel terrible every day because there's no way you're actually going to get it done. So
that's a typical mistake. Yeah, that's a typical mistake I've been doing for a really, really long time. I'm trying to change. But so that kind of practice to write down how much it actually takes me to do certain things, to be able to plan more realistically, definitely helped. And and also trying to find a balance of like things that you know, pushing away to do, but they're quite important to do, and balancing them out with things that you really love to do, and just like put it in little bits, spread it over the week. So it's not like a huge chunk of stuff that you actually hate to do. I think, that's quite helpful. Definitely.
And does it make you feel more in control or more controlled?
No, I would say it makes me feel more in control. I feel controlled when I leave things too long and I don't have any space to, you know, like navigate it differently, and then I just have to do it. Then I feel like I'm controlled. But if I plan it in a way, or it's like I leave myself enough time to arrange things, then, you know, then you're still flexible. You can still change things around, and I can still do it the way how I feel like today I actually planned, you know, to write this and that letter, but I don't feel like it, so I can do it tomorrow and do this instead. Or I wake up and I'm like, I planned to paint this and that today, but actually I feel like going out, and then maybe after I sculpt a little bit or do something like that, then I can do that. So
It's amazing. So actually a little bit of like planning ahead gives you more flexibility and freedom to kind of go with the flow. And each day it's like, well, you know I have this much time left before I need to get that thing done, so I can move that to tomorrow or whatever. I love that, because there's such a resistance to organization and structure around creativity. But I feel like when you start looking at it in that way, like how can I plan a little bit, put a little bit of structure in, and it helps facilitate creativity, because then you're not leaving it until the last minute and doing it like under some sort of like anxiety or stress. You're kind of doing it on your own terms, which is beautiful. And you've been one of my guinea pigs, actually. So Anna had to go through the first draft of my book, which is going to be coming out in the fall around these productivity things. But for anyone that doesn't know what the book process is like, the first draft is like, it's really messy and it needs a lot of work, and it can be a tough read. So Anna,
no, it was actually really helpful for me. Yeah, definitely.
So for those that are watching, if you have any questions for Anna, start typing those in the chat. We can see them. We can put them up on the screen as you've seen us do so far. So anything and everything that you want to ask Anna or me, and I'll carry on asking you questions in the meantime. So you mentioned some of the places that you find inspiration, like nature, but I know with when you're doing something like a movie where you're having to be doing the same thing every day, and it can be very long hours and kind of a tough schedule. Like, where do you find inspiration, both in those moments where it's it can be taxing on you, but also when you're then not in that situation? Where do you find inspiration, and how do you stay motivated?
That's a good question. So when you get into these situations where you kind of do the repetitive work every day, I try to see it more, like you get in such a flow, or your body just knows anyway what to do, or you're doing the same makeup every day. To kind of try to enjoy the flow of it, or see it more like a meditative state. For example, I'm not doing that much anymore, but one good example for that is like making wigs, and you're knotting, and you have like, you're knotting so many hairs into the whole lace to create this like a lot of hair on head. So this is also a type of work where that it can be quite boring, but also if you find a state where you're kind of in a meditative state, or you're able to put an audiobook on and get into stories. And then it's sometimes, or also when I'm painting and I paint like the same, like 70 sets of the same thing, and I put an audiobook on, then it's nearly a bit like, you listen to the story and you're painting that onto that thing as well. Or I don't know, like, oh, when I painted this part, then there was like the person in that story went through this and that, or there's just like things connecting in a different way. So it's that. And another thing is the people around me. It's really important to have a good team around you, and to have good relationship with the actors you're working with, and with your team members, the people you're working with, to apply the makeup. And this is like where you have so much you're so much fun. You support each other, you give each other strength. You're all getting up like super early. Maybe you're the first one starting the day like 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and you're all in this together, and you just give each other that support to be like, okay, we are telling this story, or want to tell the story in that movie. We're all part of the crew, and we are going through this together. That's when it's most fun, basically.
So tell me about a big aha moment, either in work or personally, that you've had maybe over the last year or last couple of years, because you obviously you went from movie sets to going on this incredible journey around Central America, and the different experiences of that. So if you had a big moment where you're just like, oh my God, lightning struck.
Yeah, definitely. I had a few moments like this on the journey. Yeah, one of them was definitely the plant medicine retreat that I went on, that made me understand that a lot of things that I wanted to start before, and I just didn't do because I didn't take the time for it. Or so I was like, yeah, when I have time, then I start doing a massage course, because I really, would love to get into that field as well, and be a massage therapist or get certified for that. I'd love that. And also with the women's work, take time for it and to do that. And you also like realizing that's one of the aha moments. You don't have to just decide on one thing that you want to do. Or I always thought like I either do the movie stuff and I'm a prosthetic makeup artist, or I completely change and I'm a massage therapist or women's circle facilitator. But I don't have to. I can do all of it at the same time.
No, we have
You can
a
learn different things
here from
Yeah.
I hope is how you pronounce your name. She said, do you have any more dates or info on when you are doing your Budapest women's group?
Oh, hello, Ili. Yeah, I actually know her. We've been working together. I don't have any specific dates yet. I'm going to be traveling to Budapest at the beginning of June, and I'll be there until November or something. And depending on how heavy it is with work and how much time I have left, I'm going to be starting doing women's circles at the weekends, I guess. But I will put that up on my Pathweavers Instagram page or share about that on Facebook as well. Or I can directly message you and let you know. But yeah, it's in the planning, and I'm just adjusting to how it's going to flow with work and all of that.
I don't know if you can or if you would be interested, and I'm sorry, I'm not being a good friend and putting you on the spot, but I just thought your Zoom women's group was like so powerful for me, and I imagine there's a lot of women watching now that would be interested in experiencing something like this, and maybe it's less intimidating to be able to do it on your computer and like the comfort of your own home. So anybody out there that's watching, if you agree with me and you think that Anna should run another Zoom women's circle, here in the comments or message us directly, because I think it's an amazing experience, and it's not as like hippie and crazy if you've never been to one. Actually, it's super transformative and powerful. So Anna's, I'm just going to hide this comment so you can see at the bottom of the screen. Anna's got 2 Instagram accounts. Pathweavers is the one that she's using for her women's work and mass work, and Kiesser Anna is the one that she uses to show all the amazing stuff that she's doing on sets and in her world. So actually, Gio also said, can you please share a link for info about the mask sessions Anna was talking about? So Anna's working on getting some of these workshops together. She often does some Facebook lives or Instagram lives talking about the mask work that she's doing, and she is putting together her workshops. So make sure to follow her on Instagram right now, because that's the best place where she's going to be releasing more information about the mask stuff that she's doing, and also maybe putting together some women's stuff for us again. Obviously, I'm clearly being selfish because I want another one.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to put one out there. I'm just like setting it up at the moment and see like where I can fit it in, but I need it for myself as well. So it's actually something quite selfish. I would love to, just bring women together and just connect. It's good for all of us. And what else did I want to say? Yeah, about the masks. So I am putting these workshops together right now, but I'm also part of Earth Post Collective, and they are setting up an online university at the moment, where there's a lot of amazing teaching, different courses you can choose from. And at some point, I'm going to be offering mask workshops there as well, but that's still going to take a while. So stay tuned for that. But it's Earth Post Collective if you want to have a look what they are doing and the different offerings that are going to be up at the online university.
Awesome. Yeah, that's our fellow sister from Momentum Collective, Holly's project, which is really exciting and coming together. So we've got a couple of minutes left, and if anybody has any last questions, feel free to type those in, but I'm going to take advantage of the final questions that I like to ask in these moments. So first, I would love to get your definition of what living unrestricted means to you.
Yeah, so I would say living unrestricted means to me that I am taking my decisions without fear. So the way how I'm moving in life and how I decide which way to go, and it's like following my heart and watching when fear comes up and what it does with me and questioning where it comes from, but not taking decisions based on fear. This is a really important lesson I learned, and I'm really practicing that now. Even now, like being on this podcast, man, I was so afraid. I'm not like, I'm never in front of the camera. I don't do these kind of things. I'm the makeup artist behind the scenes. So
I'm so glad you leaped into fear, because I think, you're amazing. And that's why I wanted, oftentimes the people behind the scenes are the ones with some of the most interesting stories that need to be told. So actually, just a little love from Gio. She said, "Thank you, ladies. This has been absolutely wonderful." So you pushed through fear, and you've inspired a few people today. So
thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did this. And I just, like I said at the beginning, when we met in Guatemala, it took a long time to actually find out this amazing life that you've led. And I was just drawn to your energy and who you were, and those instantaneous friendships and bonds that just get in situations. Yeah. And we even bonded over she had this weird, it was like a no bite little machine and there was tons of bug bites in Guatemala, and I was just covered all over my Anna brings out this machine, and it's this machine that burns your bug bites, but by burning them, but it doesn't actually burn them, but it hurts, so the first one you're oh my God, and then after a couple you're ooh, this kind of feels good, and Anna and I were I don't know why, but it feels good to burn ourselves for these bug bites. But it's not as intense as it sounds. It's a weird little electromagnetic machine that tries.
It heats up to 60 degrees, and through the heat, the protein and what's injected from the mosquito gets cannot spread anymore. So it's this like little German self-pleasure machine that can put on your mosquito
Not that
bites.
kind of self-pleasure.
No. It's pain. It's painful. It's painful, but it's quite satisfying to feel that the mosquito bite the itchiness is eliminated.
Yeah. So
that's the pleasure.
Before we wrap up, got a little love from Atticus as well. She says, "You always inspire my heart." So my last question for you, which every time I have a conversation with someone, this is my favorite question to ask. And it's, if you had a magic wand that you could wave and something would happen, and it can be personally, professionally, in the world, it's your magic wand, you get to wave it, and one thing happens, what would your magic wand make happen?
Wow. Oh my God. That's so difficult to just focus on one thing. I would say this magic wand would connect everyone to him, her, or his heart in the best way, in the deepest way, because that sounds so hippie or cheesy or whatever. Oh, connect to your heart, and we all love each other.
Yes, we are loved.
But actually, if you are sharing from a place of love for yourself and for others, this is quite powerful. And this is where the beautiful things happen, where change happens. So that's what we need.
Absolutely.
Change and balance.
I'm just going to pull up one last comment from the viewers out there. Anna, thank you for being fearless today. You have been so articulate, interesting, and informative.
Oh, thank you.
That's from Mother of Athena, Miss Jennifer Simpson. So thank you for that. And I have to agree. It's been incredible to have you on the show today. And it's been really awesome to hear, like, you know, what is such an interesting life on the movie sets, and how you kind of came to realize that masks could have this like healing transformative effect by working on Star Wars of all places with the Jordanian army in the middle of Wadi Rum Desert through to, you know, you going and exploring Central America, tapping into this idea of like not only the power of getting women together, but like tapping into our bodies and something that, you know, typically we've had to not acknowledge, you know, and bringing that to light and how that can be like super healing and transformative. So, yeah. Wow, girl, you blow my mind every time I talk to you, and I'm lucky because I get to talk to you all the time. But I hope for everybody watching today, you are super inspired. Please follow Anna on path.weavers and at Kiesser, Kiesser.Anna on Instagram. She's going to be updating us and probably getting a lot of pressure now to put those mask work together quicker and run some like Zoom women's circles. So thank you so much, my lovely.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening, guys. And yeah, tune in with me.
So I'm just going to hide Anna for a minute and tell you about next week. So next week, our guest is somebody that's very, well, everyone that I'm bringing on is super close to my heart and I think are amazing people. So we're going to have Miss Hannah Dement, who is an incredible human being. She has traveled all over the world as a high-end personal massage therapist, working for the Prince of Qatar for 2 years and billionaires in the States. But she's also an investor and has made some really interesting investments that have allowed her to now live this incredibly unrestricted lifestyle. And she not only discovered aerials, but now she's like heavily into fire dancing and picked up a dragon staff and does fire dancing and is traveling the US in a van that she is outfitted to kind of live out of. But, you know, it has its own eco glitter bar and a whole rack for her wits. So she's an incredible dichotomy of a human. She's studying all sorts of really amazing things around breath work and healing and cacao, and also has this really interesting side of, you know, this life of really being able to see behind the scenes of what it is to be a billionaire or even have more money than that, and how that's imprinted on her in her life and how she lives her life unrestricted. So I hope you tune in with us next Sunday. It will be the same time, 12 p.m. LA time, 3 p.m. New York time, 8 p.m. London time. And yeah, man, thank you for tuning in, and let's keep this conversation going. Let's redefine what success looks like, and let's all start living more unrestricted. So thank you so much. Have an amazing rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next week.